Hello and welcome again, and it's the stream that literally nobody has been waiting for, where I play with the BR155, which just came out today for Train Sim World. So let's just dive straight on in. Right, so I had to play with this earlier on my main account. Kind of figured most of it out, some of it out, a bit of it out, not much of it out. Nah, we'll be alright. So let's just have let's make it what's it look like out my window just now? Bit cloudy, so we'll have a cloudy spring day. And you see, these are all filled in on my main account. I've done so many of these. The bugger is, I don't know which ones are the special 155 services now. Ha! It's coal trains I'm looking for. Empty coal. No. Empty coal, no. I want a full coal train. Come on, how hard can it be to find a full coal train? Loaded coal freight train, right, that'll do it. Probably going to want my PZB chart next to me while I do this. Let's just get that there. One of these days a patch will fix the loading times. No, not really. Okay, so there's quite a few things to do in this at the start. So first thing I want to do is clean up my HUD a bit. I must have been playing on, oh, what was I playing on? I must have been playing on Transpennine or something last time I was on here, so I don't want that. Don't want, don't want, don't want, don't want, do want, don't want, doesn't matter, don't need, fine, okay. Apologies for that. I should always do that when I'm finished playing a session, rather than when I start one. So, reverser to forward. It'll make a nice crunchy noise there. I'm just going to nip down the back here, because this is where some other stuff is. Mode U if you want to use PZB for this train, because it's too heavy for a modem. I tried it, it doesn't work. Not even close. The downside is that I'm pretty crap at mode U, so I tend to end up sort of stuck in a halt somewhere anyway at some point, but not to worry, we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. So cab lights don't need, gauge lights don't need, cab heat we don't need. All these switches do stuff now. Most of it not good if you don't know what they're actually for and you hit them by accident as well, so careful when you're reaching for click spots and things, make sure you've got the right one. There's a lot of stuff in here that if you flick it, it'll do things, odd stuff will happen and you won't have a clue why. Well, probably not. I certainly didn't when I was accidentally grabbing them earlier on. So, I've forgotten everything I need to bloody do as well in this thing. So a couple of things down here. These are new. This is the braking force selector, which I've found I don't really need to play with. The traction force selector, on the other hand, I'm going to turn up a little bit because this is a heavy train we're pulling. We've got a driver's brake key that we need to remember to turn off. And with that all being done, the only other stuff really in here that you would touch would probably be, if it was dark, you might want to put the, I quite often have those on anyway, just tunnels and stuff, it's useful. And there's a light switch just here. You can check the LEDs all work, which is cool. And switch there for the lights on the dials. There is another light switch somewhere, but it's, oh aye, this one down here. It makes the display around the controls glow in the dark, which is kind of cool. And this is supposed to be a backlight for some other stuff, but it doesn't do now, so we'll not worry too much. Anyway, we're already probably running a wee bit behind time. Hey, Super Sprinter, welcome, mate. Hiya, thanks for joining. Just getting underway here. If I can remember how the hell to start this thing up. So just make sure that you've got the direct brake off. It should be off. Driver's brake valve. Release. And this is where it gets a bit interesting. Only want that at number 2. Sometimes you can get underway with the sort of semi-automatic, just winding the wheel up to notch 2. Other times, if it's a big, long, heavy train, which this is, we'll just, I think it is just trying to move now. This is quite a long train for Ruhr-Signord, and it's bloody heavy as well compared to just about anything else. So if you find it's not getting underway, what to do is to return the tap changer to 0, and then if you keep going, you've got manual modes to increase it one at a time, and you'll see this yellow number on the desk going up. Put it up to 3 instead of 2, and you'll get going. Don't put it any higher though, otherwise the electric motors basically shed the load, and you have to go through a little start sequence again. It's nothing complicated, you just have to cycle the controls, but it's a pain in the ass at low speed because you'll usually stop while you're doing it. Alright, no, I don't know why I'm thinking I need to acknowledge that. So there we go, it's taking us a wee while to get up to 5k just to trip the monitoring there, and I've just realised what else I forgot to do. Put the chair height up. Naughty, naughty. Morphs you onto the train when you get hit. I'm going to be honest with you, Super Sprinter, mate. I've never actually found myself hit by a train yet in this game. Now, this thing here is, it's tricky to get this thing underway. You'll have seen these yellow numbers on the dash of a lot of the German trains, and what happens is you open the power lever. Sounds nice, doesn't it? You open the power lever, and then a clever bit of software decides how many of these notches of power to apply, and that's all you have to do. In this train, you have to do it yourself using the gauges. You'll notice I've got the HUD actually disappeared for this. I don't find the HUD particularly useful because it doesn't actually have the red line, so to speak, on it that the main dash gauge does. Essentially, it's got a series of numbers down the right hand side, and you must never let the yellow needle go above about 30. Maybe 35 at a push if you're already going quickly enough. At various speeds, different number down here will be required. For example, at this speed with this load I'm pulling, I can't go above notch 7. Once we're actually up to speed out on the line, I'll be running up around 20, 21, 22 at places. But it's not like the German trains we're used to so far, where it does so much of the work for you. This is really quite tricky. It's like a 40. Oh, I always get the two of them confused on NTP. The one that I broke the other night. 47, I want to say 45, I think it was. No, it's 45. It's the one on NTP that you can over rev and pop all the breakers on. This effectively can do the same thing. So only screen we've got is the one that doesn't have anything on it, helpfully. That switch doesn't do very much. Um, I'm loath to play with many of the buttons in here because it always ends in tears when I do. Manual does make reference to AFB as well, but I don't actually know where the controls are in the cab. I can't find any in the cab. I can't find any mention in the manual of the controls in the cab. The manual simply says, gives you the keyboard commands for the PC version of the manual if you have it. Which I always find to be the best one to get, to be honest. So it mentions that there are buttons assigned for AFB, but I've not actually tried them. I mean, Christ, it's complicated enough without throwing that in to concentrate on as well, if I'm being totally honest. But aye, love the 1970s wood panelling in here. By the way, it's so shite it's good. This is cool as well because these services have been slotted in around the existing stuff, I think. So you see a lot of passing traffic. So PZB acknowledged there for the VR signal, the VOR signal. I've decided I'll start calling them by their proper names as well because I think I call them different things every time I go past them, and that's probably not helpful. But it's unrestricted 1000 Hz monitoring, so 55 maximum. But the signal itself, we would be doing 40 if we saw that. So when it comes to picking between should I obey this PZB speed or should I obey the signal speed, it is of course whichever is the lower of those two numbers. So another key that I've found to this loco as well is plan ahead, far ahead. So if you know you've got a speed limit change coming up, you want to be braking and preparing for it long before you actually get there, because the braking on this train is, it's like the really heavy ones on main Spessart. Once you actually start decelerating, it's very hard to stop decelerating. And I found a few times under heavy braking from around 100 to get down to the PZB speed, I actually was releasing the brakes at around 60 kph, and the deceleration was so severe I was actually coming to a halt before the traction motors could recover it. So planning far in advance is the key to this thingy. I mean, this is a flower of 1974 technology. It's you can't expect it to be as good as a 21st century machine, or even a 1990s era machine. None of this stuff here really does anything. There's a couple of buttons you can click on, but they don't change anything. Although, interestingly, they've left the banking comm switch active on this little unit here. Now that switch is on several other units in the game, but only a couple of them can actually use it. Only the 185 can use it at the moment as the banking locomotive on main Spessart. And the rest of them, it's a dead. It doesn't even come up with the banking comm tooltip on the rest of them. So it's interesting that they've left that on there. I might be reading something into nothing, but I found it curious. So I'm actually going a few kph faster than I really maybe ought to be. We'll just acknowledge that signal as we go past, and let's just pop a little bit of braking. Because I'm creeping up towards that 50, 55. PZB, it does give you a little bit of time to recover from an overspeed. It's not an instant kick in the sack, but the less you find yourself, the less reactive braking you have to do in this, the better. Ideally, you want everything to be planned ahead. Fair dues, you will run into signals and things sometimes that you weren't expecting. Not much you can do about it. Other than that, if you know you've got speed limit changes and stuff coming up ahead, just start doing your manoeuvres way early. Would be my advice. You can, I think it is possible. I think I need to be releasing my brakes a lot earlier, and I think I am occasionally causing myself a traction lock as well, which I will come back to in a moment. Because I've also tried this on main Spessart ban. I don't know why I felt the need to acknowledge thin air there. Tried it on main Spessart ban with the fast freights, and it was an absolute dream. Responded really well under acceleration and deceleration on that. And I drove this route with a lighter train on the back as well. You do not have to take the big heavy coal trains it came with. So it's just a product of the really sodden heavy wagons I'm towing that are screwing up the braking just now for me. But we can learn that together as I make my inevitable hilarious blunders as we go. And traction lock, what I meant by traction lock was when you need to brake, and this is why planning ahead's a bit important. Ideally, you want the tap changer handle back at 0, along with the numbers here to have also returned to 0. Ideally before you start braking. Otherwise, you get a thing called traction lock, which is essentially it's basically the electricity still going to the traction motor while you're trying to brake, and it buggers everything up. You take longer to slow down, I think. That might be why I've had a couple of my PZB stops as well. So there I can see, that's fine, that's got some green in it, we can just keep going. I thought that was all yellow for a second. So beware when you're braking. This is why I'm saying it's important to plan ahead. If you see a speed limit reduction that you think or you know needs a PZB acknowledgement, for example, be slowed down or slowing down long before you normally would, before you even see the signal or the signpost, ideally, if you're going pretty fast. And if you're going down a hill, steep hill, do not go at anything like top speed, because it will not end well for you if you hit a signal. Especially, I'm thinking coming down the Spessart tramp, but along here, even if you're on one of the 120 sections and you suddenly run into a speed limit sign you forgot about, you weren't paying attention, or you find a signal that you didn't think was going to be against you, very, very easy to find yourself in that situation. So at high speed, ideally, you want the it's not always possible, but you want the tap changer setting down at a lower number, because you got this thing turned away up to 20 or 25. It's going to take you a good 3 or 4 full turns to maybe not a 3 or 4 full turns. It's going to take you 3 or 4 seconds, sorry, to return that. Oh shit. I went to grab my microphone to mute it before I sneezed in your ear there. I'm sorry, I just ended up pausing the game. Never mind. I don't think I need to do that again. So I'm going a little bit high with the power there, in fact. The other thing with setting your power is you'll find that as you turn the wheel, I've got up to 10 now, 11 now, you'll find this number won't actually go up any higher after a certain point, or it'll take ages and ages. This comes back to keeping this little needle here in the right part of the gauge. I've got it as far up really as you can without risking basically tripping the fuse, if you like. That's not quite what's happening, but it's the closest sort of analogy, I guess. So I watch for that. Don't go just ramping it up to 30 and thinking the train will catch up with you, because it will not. So we acknowledgement only because it had a VR signal at the bottom half there. If it had just been the the HS, I would have just carried on through. Now we're piling the speed on all of a sudden when I need to be losing it. Right, here's the thing with the brakes. And I was just fucking shed the load again. It can be a bastard to get it going again once you've been under braking. It's really easy to overload it while you're trying to get traction on again. So we're gonna level out around 10 kph and then pick it up again, and that was purely my fault. I was too heavy-handed with the brakes. I'll do a trip in a medium train after this with the same locomotive, and you'll see an enormous difference in the braking performances. So many times I've come to a complete halt in this train without meaning to. Really easy to do. But that's certainly not a criticism of it. I'm really enjoying it because it's completely different to anything I've seen before. There's very much a new skill to be learned here with the way that the power system on it works. It is explained in the manual better than it is in the tutorial. It's well worth going over onto Steam and look the game up and grab the manual from the DLC section. Right, I didn't go into restricted monitoring, so we can have a quick look outside while we're trundling through here. For some reason my wee dude goes bald now every time I get into certain German trains, which I'm not entirely impressed with. So you can see quite easily why it got the nickname the electric container. I mean, it really does look like someone's just stuck windows on the end of a container and built, made a locomotive out of it. It's agricultural, I think, is a word you might use. I was quite surprised to discover this had been built for the old West German Deutschbahn. When I first saw the photograph, assumed it was a former East German machine. Which I probably shouldn't have. Serves me right, really, for jumping to conclusions, I guess. But I've never seen anything like this before either. That's really, I like it. I mean, it works in principle. It's the same as a power handle. The wheel's just designed to give you far greater control over the same range of power applications. There's just a slight difference in the way you have to make sure that you gently put it in at the start, and that's, as I say, just mostly down to there not being much clever software on a locomotive this old doing all that work for you. I mean, if you enjoy driving the old diesels on NTP, you might actually, even if you're one of these people that considers electric locomotives to be this newfangled work of the devil, this is actually quite fun to drive, and I would compare it very closely to one of those old diesels. Don't know why I'm acknowledging greens, ignore that. So now we're clear of all the speed restrictions and we're out onto the line. I'm just going to drift a little bit further up. I'm going to go up beyond the end of the siding here, just to make sure that the rear of the train's cleared the speed change. And then again, you don't just bang the throttle open and wait for the train to catch up. This is now a very, very long, gradual process of me slowly applying power. And again, the secret's all in this little needle here. If I switch the dial lights on, I don't know if it's any clearer now that I've done that, but you'll see that the green bar along the outer edge in this top right quadrant, half of it's sort of brighter and thicker than the other half, which is a bit darker shaded. Essentially that shaded section is the section you're aiming to keep the needle in during this accelerating process, and it will take a while to do. I wasn't even looking at that signal, so a wee safety acknowledge as I go through, even though it would have been way too late to do much about it. I don't want to go too far in case I miss a signal. As you can see, it's a bit longer than most of the stuff we've seen on rear sig so far. Way heavier as well. So I'm just slowly feeding the power in, and with those backlights off, you'll see basically this red section down the outer quadrant here on the right hand side. Basically keep the needle out of there. If it goes in there too deep, then you'll hear a click and a pop and all those numbers will go back to zero. Huh. Have those big yellow signal handle things always been there, or is that new? I've never noticed those before. Noticed that before. I like how manky and just worn and used it looks. That's cool. It's a nice little effect. It's another thing that just reminds me a little bit of the sort of the classic diesels we got a few months ago. So I can put a little bit more power in now. I think there might be a slightly uphill stretch of the line, which is going to make it feel a little bit asthmatic as well. Other stuff over there for there's a horn over there. Wiper controls for the left hand side as well are independent of the ones over here, which are down on our armrest there. Not that we'll need them today, unless I decide to make it snow for the next trip or something like that. Oh, these are cool as well, the windows, I like these. So you can open the window to there, or all the way to there, and they're both noisy. There we go. Oh, just getting my first achievement on this profile for the train. I know I've already driven 155k in it on my other account, which is, like, be fair, like 3 and a bit trips. I did one last night when I realised it had unlocked at midnight, and a couple this afternoon. Didn't take long at all, and presumably it was counting the miles on the abandoned runs as well. Yes, that does happen sometimes. So there was a ZS3 on top of that signal we went past, the white number with the 10 in it, which temporary speed restriction of 100. Doesn't really matter to us because 100's about as fast as we're going to go under Mode U anyway. If you're not sure if that's yellow you can see up ahead, just close the tap changer wheel until you can tell one way or the other. It is a bit confusing occasionally at a distance, what signals what. Just remember when you're opening it again to do it in steps. Otherwise, refer back to my earlier comment about a pop and a bang. So also a ZS3V on the one we went past, the yellow number, which is warning you that you're slowing down to 90 from the next signal. Didn't need to acknowledge that one because the speed limit it's dropping to is still above the highest of the PZB limits. Although that said, on some stretches of some lines a 90 will be guarded, so if you're not sure and you don't know the line, just acknowledge it as you go past anyway. Alright, let's wind some power in of our own. Take it up to 85 and we'll hover about there. As always, I like to give myself just a wee cushion for reaction time and stuff. Which I believe is the sort of the standard that the drivers actually give themselves anyway. I think the game's been programmed that way as well, because I've noticed in rapid transit you can give yourself that cushion and still be on time. Okay, so you'll see a lot of movement of the traction wheel as I'm still obviously learning this as well. I'm kind of guessing a lot of it as I go. So all clear, no active ZS's. Is it ZS or is it ZE? Can't mind. Okay, so that's not for us. Let me just quick check, because I forgot the speed limit that I was doing just now. That happens sometimes as well. That's cool. I'm not a trained professional, so I have no shame in needing a little bit of help sometimes. Oops, I'm sitting with my power far lower than I actually wanted it to be for a while there. That is something I have found with this this locomotive, is there's so many things you have to have your attention on at one time. You have to sort of develop a slightly different routine for where your eyes are going to be, if that makes any sense. I've got a wee, not a routine as such, but I know where everything is and what I need to look at and when on all the other locomotives, and this is just a bit different and a bit finicky. In a good way though. In a very, very good way so far, I have to say. Only real problem with it is that there is a bit of a sound bug. Occasionally when you go into a tunnel, the sound fades out for a moment or two. Only the motor sound though, everything else keeps going. It's the weirdest thing, to be honest, but... Now, because the speed limit is currently 100, that next one coming up is going to be guarded about a kilometre before it begins by PZB. And because I don't want to get stuck in a braking trap, I'm going to start slowing down now. And trust me, this is quicker than slamming on the brakes as you go past the sign and then having to recover from 20 kilometres an hour. So, yes, we're running way below the line speed, but that's kind of the whole point of the lower speed limit on PZB. And it's designed to keep bigger, heavier trains going at lower speeds. Just because a lightweight passenger train that weighs about the same as a bag of crisps compared to this can do it at 80 does not mean that several thousand tons of fossil fuel can go around these bends at the same speed. And that one turned out the magnet's off this time. That's another weird one, that sometimes the magnet's on and sometimes it's off, because I got brought to a halt here this afternoon as I went by, thinking I don't need to acknowledge it. No harm, no foul. It's much easier to get back up to speed from this kind of position than it would be if it called that wrong. And you're not under a particularly strict timetable on the freight trains anyway. As I say, it's a particular quirk of the heavy freight train, these big coal trains. And I don't think I'm even going to attempt to tackle the main Spec Art heavy trains with this, if I happen to spawn with one. The mediums are fine. It actually was really, really nice to drive on MSP, I have to say. Even at 120 kilometres an hour, it sounded nice. It was rocking about. Got to hear all the sound effects that have been recorded for it. You don't always get much of a chance on rear signal. It does have a couple of 120 stretches on it, but we're pulling a train that restricts our speed to lower than that, and it takes so long to accelerate as well that you rarely really get to take much advantage of it anyhow. Pop the lights on the dash there before we disappear into the... Sure, there was another light switch I was after, but I can't remember where it is now. Or what it was for, in fact, so it can't really have been that important, I don't think. there went the sound a wee bit, which is a shame because when it works, this thing sounds incredible inside the tunnel with the window down. And the displays and the gauges are getting clearer as well. And as much as you'll notice that I don't have any assistance from a HUD down here. The gauges are large enough. I can read the numbers. I can see what's going on. I don't know how well that shows in the stream, to be honest, because it is a lower res. But you might struggle on a tiny wee screen if you, for whatever reason, you were playing it. I don't know if any people, if you were maybe using the share play thing to play on your tablet while somebody else is watching TV or something, it might be a bit difficult. But on your main telly, you should have absolutely no bother driving from the gauges, should you wish to. Something else I think this locomotive would actually be brilliant for as well is somebody who's maybe, you know, you've got the hang of the straightforward electric stuff. You've mastered what came with the base game. You know, you're maybe looking for something a bit more challenging now, even without turning on things like PZB and SIFA. This locomotive will certainly, it'll test you more than anything that came with the base game, I think. And there was me applying the brakes. I've traction locked myself basically, so I now need to zero everything off, make sure the brake's fully released. And this is where it can sometimes take a few goes. You'll find it just trips and goes back to zero. That's been alright this time. So yeah, this is obviously I realise it does. You do need another DLC to use this locomotive as well. But to be honest, Roos ignored. I mean, with the 143 and the one I can't remember what the hell we had. One of the Doppelstocks. What you get on that's a nice little package, I would say, a nice complete little package for somebody who's, you know, had their money's worth out the main game and looking for their first next thing, or the first next thing. What the fuck does that even mean? Holy crap! Somebody looking for a slightly more technical challenge than what they've got so far. Then I would say Rua Sig's looking pretty tasty for being the next port of call. I realise that a lot of people put off by the electrics. I totally get that. I don't understand it, but I get that people don't like them. That's cool. There's bits I prefer more than others. That's all right. But I mean, the electrics have got a reputation for being a bit dull and easy to drive, but not really the case with any of the ones on this route. Certainly. Not really the case on any of them. If you start switching on all the bells and whistles, the driver safety devices and things. And even if you've learned the more advanced stuff, even if you're a ninja with PZB, this thing's still going to push you a bit to begin with, just because of all the different stuff that we're doing here. Having direct control over the power input, for instance, it's fiddly, it's time consuming, it demands concentration and attention along with everything else you've got to watch when you're running it on maybe more advanced settings, but it's part of the fun. Or it is to boring bastards like me. Right, I've been blethering and forgot where I am speed limit wise, so we're back up to 80 now, right, that's fine. In fact, we can probably just get rid of that just now. Watch this, there's a tunnel right round that corner, isn't there? Ah, cock. Never fails. Cool little sort of screen display thing up here. Don't know what any of this stuff means, but it doesn't seem to do anything. However, we do now know that HB is a bat, apparently. Whoever HB is. And there goes me acknowledging thin air again. Hey Nick, how we doing, mate? Welcome. It's lovely. Have you tried it yet? Have you got it yourself? Oh, there goes my microphone again, I think. No. Oh hell, I've just realised that's what's been happening, right. I've been thinking my headset's on its last legs. It's the sound on this train that dies out completely. Okay, right, that is an annoying bug. Tunnels, the sound doesn't like tunnels. That is something that they really will need to fix. It's... I was going to say it's not game breaking, but it is. When it's bad enough to make you think that your headphones might have died, that is actually pretty shite. So I hope that gets addressed quickly. It's not normally that bad. It's normally like the top loudest layers of sound get stripped away and then come back. But that's pretty poor. But that one major glaring flaw aside so far, I have to say, I've not really found anything else to complain about. Really enjoyed it. Really, really liking it. Right, I can probably be going much faster than I am. What am I... Still on 80. Egads, this thing's a bit asthmatic with the heavy train behind it. Make sure I can see what the signals are doing. Let's just jump back on board. If I can get it up to around 80 or so, it'll start bouncing and rocking around, and it's really quite cool. Well, next week's maybe not a bad idea, given the sound buggy thing. You might find that the patch will be fairly swift. They're usually quite quick at patching any of these wee things out anyway, but for something like that, I would hope they'll be pretty swift. Oh, lights. So many different light switches in here as well for different things. There is another one I've forgotten because I had some other lights on in here earlier. So we're just coming up to a 70. So I'm going to do all my braking and she's way before that. And then I'm trying to think what comes after that. Where are we? We're halfway along, right? Ah, fuck, I meant to do this braking earlier. I was too busy bloody looking at my... Ironically, looking at the PZB chart I've got sitting next to me. Oh, this is where I come grinding to a halt now. Buggery, 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 buggery. Ooh, did we get away with that one? Maybe, maybe, maybe? Nope. If we got it this time. Come on! Takes so long to recover from that braking, and it's just the sheer weight of the thing. It takes forever. Right. Excuse I. Right, seem to have recovered from that. BR155. It's you need rear signard if you're going to buy it, but once you've bought it, you can drive it on main spec art. Because I drove it on main spec art this afternoon. As to whether it's worth picking up now, other than a bit of an annoying sound bug when you're going through tunnels, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's different to anything else that you've seen in the game so far, and I would recommend, even if you don't plan on turning things like PZB and that on, having a wee look at the instruction manual for it and stuff like that. There is a very quick tutorial for it, but without that covers such a tiny amount of what you need to know just to get it to get up to speed and stuff. It's complicated, but if that's your bag, then absolutely would recommend it. That said, if you think you're going to get frustrated at something like that, that's that's, you know, throwing 4 or 5 different things at you at once to be watching, what I would normally say is go and watch somebody play it on YouTube for a while, but that's what you're here doing. I would say so, yeah. The only people I think who would really be disappointed with it are maybe folk who didn't realise quite how complex it was compared to some of the other ones, and that makes me sound like I'm being a right fucking elitist cunt there, and I'm not trying to be, but let's be honest, there's a fairly broad range of people playing the game, and some people, yeah, playing it at different difficulty levels. It's certainly aimed at one end of that scale, I would say. But I can say without any hesitation, I'm going to get more than my £12 worth out of it. That's for absolute certain. Oh, blimey, it's filling up. Crikey. So that's yeah, I kept thinking that was my headset. I don't know if the sound's cutting out on the stream, but it is definitely in my sort of output is cutting as I go through the tunnel every time, and I can't. That was driving me mental last night when it did it, and then again this afternoon. So let's see who's all joined. Stephen, hi Stephen, welcome again, man. And Thomas, good to see you again. Thank you. Well, if that's your jam, Stephen, you won't be disappointed with this train. Frustrated and annoyed occasionally, puzzled certainly, and just look at that lovely wooden 1970s finish, man. That's incredible. It's like a big red box of nostalgia. Oh yeah, you're going to need it. Yeah, I'm kind of dawdling along here, really. Let's just have a quick shufty at the... So I'm on 110 stretch of track, and it's going to take ages to get anywhere near 100. But as I discovered before, at first the first run I did in this, I was doing one of these really heavy trains, and I was like, oh, what have I bought here? I'm thinking this thing is dire, but happily when I hooked a lighter train up to it and took it for a run along the main Spessart, it were fine. I only got myself into trouble once, leaving it a bit late to brake going down a hill. It was entirely my doing, not the game's. Let me just check, because this feels like we're going... that felt like we were going uphill there, because it's laborious to say the least. Right, I need to watch what I'm doing with that, with the traction wheel as well. If you put that up too high, like it's at 18 just now, if I put it up too many notches ahead of what the display says, I'll overload it and it'll cut out. And the further up I turn it away from what it's actually delivering, the worse or the more likely that is. So there we go, I can turn it up now. And it's usually when this yellow needle here migrates just back into the high 20s. When it just passes 30, you should be able to put your next notch of power in there. So within 10 kilometres of the 12 kilometres of the end of the line, trying to think, might be a bit of passenger traffic ahead. Stuff coming out of Finnitrop as well will cause points changes and things up ahead, so there might be signals in effect depending on how good or bad the timekeeping is compared to where you're meant to be. Absolutely crap today, I suspect. I've done absolutely terrible. Now, the speed limit away up ahead is almost certainly guarded by PZB, so again, I'm going to just get myself ready way in advance so that I don't traction lock myself. And basically I want to be sort of at a sensible-ish speed so that when I reach the 1 kilometre from the speed limit change. In fact, there's a ZS that I need to acknowledge anyway. Why is PZB not kicked in? I have no idea. Okay, so I didn't actually need to acknowledge that one. Oh, what an arse I'm making of this. I'm being too cautious, I think, because I got myself into trouble earlier. Right, let's try this a different way. So what I'm basically doing is, instead of setting the wheel to the position I want, I'm just manually turning it up or down a notch, one at a time, which I can use to kind of, it seems to be a little bit more effective at arresting deceleration sometimes if you get yourself into trouble. I don't know whether it's like the official approved means of dealing with that situation or not, but it works for me, so why not? Right, so now that we're back underway again, let's get some forward motion going. Let's do it the proper way. Take it all the way up to 10. Just no more. I would swear blind that I've had PZB at these same magnets in the past, but I've still lost less time doing it that way than if I'd screwed up and done it too late. I don't know if you can hear sort of bits of the sound just kicking in and out a wee bit there, but again, so far, few sound issues is really the only thing I've got to complain about. And it's not like the one on the 101 on NTP where it disappears and that's it, it's gone until you reload and save. This seems to be purely related to tunnels or passing underneath objects, like bridges and things. It's something that buggered up there. These coal trains are so heavy and slow. I mean, they're not quite up there with the ones that need a shove up the main spec arc perhaps, but they're not far off it. Certainly not combined with this. What I've not tried yet is to see if I can pull one of those heavy freight trains, these heavy coal trains, with a 143 or a 185 to compare the two of those together. I'll maybe have a look at doing that over the weekend at some point. If I can squeeze it in somewhere. In fact, I've said I'm doing another thing tonight. I don't even know if I'm going to have time, to be honest, because I didn't think I was going to be this crap going along a Brursig tonight. Kind of thought I'd have done this by now, but maybe not. Mind what meant to be 80. So 80 into a 70 shouldn't be guarded, but there is one really weird one that's into a 70 that's got a signal next to it that I seem to remember from somewhere that's caught me out before. I dare say I'll find out in a minute. Right, I'm gonna turn the tap changer down anyway, just to be safe, because I'm now so thoroughly confused and disorientated along here. Right, so that one, the one that I thought wouldn't need it, is the one that bloody well does. That is definitely released all the way, but we're... Come on! And then what will happen sometimes is if I'm trying to put too much power in, it'll sometimes push back against me, and you'll see the yellow numbers resetting to 0. So that's where I'm just recycling the traction wheel again, so I can put some power in when it does that. So I'm arrested at about it's at 30 and it's still slowing down. Again, it doesn't behave like this with a lighter train behind it, so most of them are interactable, some of them too interactable. A lot of them are just click them for the sake of clicking them, but a couple of them do bad things. And about half the things on this LED bank don't actually do anything on this train. Oh, that's too much. Right. I've decided I need way more practice with these heavy freight trains. I think I leave it too late to come off the brakes, to be honest with you. I think I could probably be coming out of those brakes a lot earlier. I think it's because I'm so used to the mode O is so finely cut usually that you're just doing it and no more. You get little to no delay time on mode O. If you fuck it up, you're getting a kick. I forget about the much more generous deceleration curve that you get with U. Did I need to acknowledge that? No. See yakking again, and then I just completely stop paying attention. I think this is the longest it's ever taken me to get from one end of this line to the other. Thing is, I'm not that put out by being absolutely terrible, because I kind of drive the heavies and the locomotives that I do know either, so... Problem is the only time I really seem to play with them is actually when I'm streaming them. I never seem to get them on when I'm playing on my own profile. I should really have a notebook or something for shit like this. So you'll see plenty of 155s going the other way as well. I did also see one go past me on main Spessart as well, which I have yet to see with the 182. It doesn't seem to get used for AI services very much. Just waiting till I can see a signal mast so I know what's going on up ahead, and then if it's alright, come on signal. go. Does that have a... no, it doesn't. I think I need to get myself back to Specsavers, man. I'm seeing wee spots of yellow where there aren't any. Check me with all my excuses, eh? Sound like Lewis Hamilton when he was going through his mirrors are too wee phase. So 2 and a bit kilometers to, fuck's sake, 2 and a bit kilometers to go, and I'm expecting any time now to see the signals getting ready to slow me down going in, and there's a blinky green one. It's definitely got some yellow underneath it, so that is the K signal. Blinky green is equivalent to seeing yellow and green together on the HS signals. Means the same thing, proceed with reduced speed, and because there's a number there, it's telling me 50. Because I can see that, I know that what speed I should be doing. If that's not there, then I think the rules are actually slightly different for K signalling than for HV signalling. I think you're actually allowed to go at about 60 under KS signalling. Although I don't know if that applies on a mixed stretch of route like this or not. But it doesn't matter because it showed us a ZS3V anyway. So that's just the repeater with a little white light under it, no NE2 plate. There was no magnet next to that one, just how I could tell. And this one here, I'm pretty sure you need to acknowledge it because the speed limit sign, that orange 8, because the line speed back there is like 100 and something. So although we're already going really slow and we've got a clear signal, PZB doesn't know that. It just knows you've gone past an active 1000 Hz magnet, and it's as simple as that. Speaking of active 1000 Hz magnets, I should probably slow the fuck down, because there's going to be an active 500 in my immediate future. Right, and this is where I come to, oh, fuck's sake. Oh, I've traction locked myself. Way right. It's not a disaster. We just need to wait for traction to be usable again. Basically, it won't take long. I might even be able to get. Nah, it's going to stop me. No, it's not. It's going. It's going. It's going. Yay! Now, because I went below 10, is it 10 or 15 kilometres an hour? Because I went below 15 kilometres an hour or whatever it is, for more than 5 or 6 seconds, PZB has gone into restricted mode. So 25 kilometres per hour and no faster for the last 700 metres. But I'm not going to go anything like that speed, obviously. Sounds nice though, doesn't it? So we'll just cruise it on in very, very slowly. And looking at the time, I really shouldn't do another one, but yeah, got another minute to think about it. Right, so there's the 500 hertz magnet in front of me there. We're already going really slowly, so nothing to do there. Once in a blue moon, I still panic acknowledge it. I have no idea why. I just go, oh, magnet, quick. But, you don't actually need to do anything with a 500 other than make sure you're complying with the speed limits. By about now, if you're not down to 25 in mode U, then it'll put your brakes on for you. But you don't need to press anything or acknowledge now. So there we go. Not an exactly where it wanted me to be. Hour and 12. Fuck. I thought that was going to take me like not as long as that. Oh, jeez, oh. Right. Fuck it, we'll do one flyer westbound along main Spessart, downhill most of the way. That can't take me more than 20 minutes, 25 minutes to do. Right. And it is kind of fun to drive it fast. I want to drive it fast now after that, if I'm being honest. I love freight trains, but I'm not so in love with the big heavy ones. I think they're kind of cool on main Spessart simply because of the pushing thing. But by God, I cannot get to grips with slowing them down. It just continues to evade me. Little ones I'm alright at though. Or at least less shit at. Right. Dun 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 dun. Let's make it. We'll have another nice day. It's nice just now. Do quite a lot of these things with it snowing or raining or what have you. I don't seem to do very many of them with sunshine. Mind you, that's often been the case. I'm doing it with lots of crap weather just to try and hide the pop-up on some of the older routes. Especially, I think I used that trick more than once when I was doing quite a lot of stuff for the Great Western. Uh, that was dreadful for it. I mean, trains literally just appearing in front of you sometimes. I've seen it happen on even on the new routes as well, to be fair, at higher speeds, but oh my jeez. Well, and I don't think that was really anybody's fault, other than there are obviously limitations with the console and UK main lines. They're notable for being entirely unremarkable, as in they're flat and they're long and they're straight for long, long stretches. So there's really bugger all that they can do from a design point of view about that, really, is there? Right, I am going to go for a very, 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 very quick comfort break before I do this next run, because I do need to go for a quick whiz, but I'll only be a couple of minutes. Right, that was quicker than my usual break. What was I going to do? So I was going to go from east to west, wasn't we? Down the hill. Oh, bugger. See, on my main profile, I know which ones are the ones with bugs in them, because they're the only ones that aren't finished yet, but... Right, what's the worst that could happen? Let's just go for it and see what we get. I mean, there's only a handful of them that have issues with bugs, and it's signalling bugs. It's not like nasty bad things that are going to totally destroy your game and fuck your save files or stuff like that. I don't get bugs like that very often. Usually hilarious when you do, though. Well, when other people do, anyway. I shouldn't say that, because you can't know what's going to happen to my computer the next time I go on the internet now, eh? Right. So, thingy do that forward, that's the technical name for it. Headlight, headlight, headlight. Light switch there for the corridor lights if we need it, which we don't really on a day like this, but we've done it anyway. So leave it in mode M, which is fine, and turn that on. CIFA's down here somewhere as well, but as has become habitual in these, I'm going to leave it off, just so that it doesn't. I've not got it going off at the same time as PZB. So. What is an idea of doing as well is just have a quickly confirm with the external camera. Right, that is a fairly short train. That should present no problems. Oops, can I control my camera? Why? Lift the driver's seat a bit. That's better. I'm thinking the desk looks awfully stretched out far ahead of me there. What's wrong with it? Compressor, heating. There's one of these buttons in here. Gauge lights. No, that's that one up. Don't really need it on for MSP, I don't think. There's only one short tunnel, really. Right. I'm going to end up sitting here playing with switches all night and not driving trains. Probably don't really need that on. That does sod all. Don't really need those. We'll turn the brake and force selector up a little bit because there's some mental hills on this. I wouldn't do it coming the other way. This is just for the benefit of going down main Space Art. Going down the Space Art ramp rather. So power to notch 2. This is a much lighter train, so it should actually get away quite easily. Sometimes takes a wee moment again just to wind up. Oh, fuck brakes. And again, if putting it into notch 2 or 3 doesn't get you moving, there you go. If that hadn't worked, I'd have just backed the wheel off and used the manual input method, which is really confusing for me to try and explain, to be honest. But as soon as you've got this and you've played with that traction wheel for like 10 seconds, you'll understand what I mean by the manual inputs at the bottom end of it. So already significantly better performance than we had pulling that coal train out of Hagen. So I'm not going to release the PZB yet because I can't be absolutely certain what the magnets are going to be doing in the next 500 meters. I'm pretty sure they should all be off. But the signal speed limit is 40k anyway, so there's really no point in releasing PZB because that's enforced for, I think, there is a specific type of signpost that should appear next to the track at the point where any speed limit given to you by an HS signal or a ZS signal no longer applies. I have yet to see it on any of anywhere on this game. Doesn't mean it's not there, of course. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong place. So I tend to assume it's just up to the next main signal in that case instead. But it's a bit of a trek to the next one, so if the next VR signal is all clear as well, then As long as you can see it and there's no obstructions, then yeah, go for it. Because I believe that normally the speed restriction would be cancelled by I think it's a Z10 or something it's called. So again, I think that's just another case of tiny little details that I can see why they don't put them in. I mean, fucking hell, how many people are as sad as me and actually going to go and look all this stuff up, you know? They've only got so many hours in the day. So already up to 60, which is a lot quicker than we were able to do that same speed in the previous service that we did with the same locomotive, just with a different rake behind it. So in fact, I'm being way too slow with the acceleration as well here. So you can see I'm getting up into the mid-teens with the traction wheel much quicker than I was before. Again, using the same guide as I was earlier, not letting this yellow needle go too much beyond the red, covering this right hand side quadrant here. And holding my breath for a moment, expecting PZB to pop on, because I realised I'd gone past a mast and was entirely focused on this. Really easy to become entirely focused on your traction gauges with this to begin with. For anybody who's a fan of trains you can drive without having the artificial HUD down here as well, I know that a lot of people like that. This locomotive's brilliant for it, because I can read those gauges clear as day on a fairly shitey old. It is a 46 or a 47 inch HD telly, but I mean, I got it for 150 quid out of Tesco like 3 years ago, you know what I mean? It's no a Sony Bravia or anything like that, and I can read everything on that dashboard that I need to. I can see the numbers on the gauges. I can at least make out enough detail on the LED panel here to know what's going on. I can make out the numbers, the yellow numbers clearly. I can make out the PZB lights. I can tell what's SIFA. I can tell what the magnet lights are. It does everything I need it to. And I can read the brake gauges quite clearly as well. So absolutely fantastic from that point of view, if that's your bag. Right, so we can go up to 120. I'm not going to go much beyond 115. Let's get that opened up. Actually, I can go up to 125 in modem, so I can run it around 120. Again, I don't know how well it's carrying through, but you can see the bouncing and the rocking around now. It's good. Really like it running at these kind of speeds. Not that I dislike it going slowly. I'm just not entirely certain that big heavy freight trains are going to be my thing. So I'm just giving it a touch of brake. Don't worry about that screeching sound in the background. That's just cutting edge 1970s electromotive technology doing its thing there. But I was rolling up around towards that 120, just edging over it. So obviously with my PZB limit in mind. But look how quickly I can put the power back in. Because it's not such a heavy train and it's not still fighting me to slow down back there, I can just get straight back into it. So, as I said, all those mistakes I made on rear sig on the previous run, that was my lack of ability, not anything wrong with the locomotive itself. The fucking sound like Elmer Fudd, man. Apologies to anybody else who stutters occasionally. I do it all the time, or I find myself grasping for a word for ages and ages and ages and ages. As I work with the public, I'm kind of I didn't bother my arse about, you know, I'm kind of impervious to laughing about it, you know what I mean? So I maybe sort of make jokes about things like that without putting my brain in gear first, that's for sure. And again, I do a lot of things without putting my brain in gear first. That's what's the mile board saying? 49 foot. Ah, fuck! I'm going in the opposite direction. Right. I don't actually know the westbound runs as well as I know the eastbounds, I have to say. I know where all the TSRs and stuff are when I'm coming up the hill. Right. You can also pile a bit more speed on because I've let it drop off. Something I'm finding I'm letting happen a bit easily as well is I'm losing too much speed sometimes here. I'm just I'm letting the traction wheel out, and then it's, you know, I forget to put it back on because I think I'm used to with the German trains having AFB and all these little toys that do actually do quite a lot of the work. What the? Alright, okay. Slight panic there, I thought that's an awful lot of trains in front of me. Remembering that there is a problem down here sometimes where two trains end up on the same line to the left. AI trains, it has to be said. That's one of the 2 or 3 services that sometimes ends in a frustrating bug, unfortunately. See, so it really doesn't need that much brake at all, with this thing behind it. So I did that mostly, or with very little brake and not entirely with minimum, but didn't need to apply much force at all there, and recovers nicely to 90. In fact, I would almost recommend anyone who bought this locomotive, if you have main spec art, go and drive it on that first and get the hang of the traction system. Then go and try rear sig with all that twisty, turny, climby, divey shit going on. So something else you have to watch as you're going uphill sometimes, where's my cursor gone, there we go, is this needle, although you keep the traction wheel in the same place, as you go up a hill and, you know, gravity's pulling back against the train and what have you, and it's needing to put more effort in, without you moving the wheel, that needle can start to creep up towards the red as the train puts more effort in. If you miss that and you let it go too far, again we'll be back to the whole pop, click, bang thing, and having to get it going again. Which again, not really much of a hassle, but if it catches you by surprise, you can end up stationary on the line before you figured it out. How do I know that? Because I did it. Just get the cursor out of the way there, I think, eh? And of course the brakes are a bit sharper as well, because don't forget that I've got the brake force selector about 10% stronger than it normally would be. Now I did a bit of reading about these trains, and I believe in real life that would be an absolute no-no, because the reason that these things were all relegated to freight only was because the brakes and the axles were all basically knackered, and they are subject to various restrictions now on the line that are not necessarily enforced rigorously on Train Sim World, in which I might or might not be sticking rigorously to either. I think they can still run up to sort of Mode M style services, but not passenger routes anymore. They're not allowed to do that. Apparently it's okay if you kill a freight train driver, but not a passenger train driver. So cheating a wee bit there and using my keyboard just to jump between the cameras. I want to nip back inside just to check my speed, because I think I'm about to... Oh no, that wasn't a speed limit sign. What a tube. And because I've just tapped the brake button there, I've cut the traction, so I need to set the wheel all the way back to 0 and then apply it again. It's an idea as well to apply it in stages. If you're trying to go from 0 to something pretty high, just let the dashboard catch up. Oh, that's what happened. Right, I've just realised why my traction went. It's because I had my left stick set up to control the reverser rather than my cursor. And of course, if you move the reverser while the train is going forward, it disengages traction. Okay, so we're going to be milepost 61 is going to be putting us going uphill, I think, now towards oh, what the hell's the name of that station at the top of the Spessart tram? Forget the name of it. It's the one, the Heigenbrücken, maybe, is it called? Laufach's the one at the bottom, isn't it? So we shouldn't be too far away from Heigenbrücken, I don't think. 'Cause it's 5k up the Space Arc ramp, and that's the 74. So no, so we're maybe about a good. No, we're still 7 or 8 kilometres away from Heigenbrook, and there's sometimes a TSR in place around there, but it's mostly for eastbounds, I think. To be honest, I didn't actually play this game a lot after the last stream that I did. I ended up getting distracted by other things. And honestly, first time I played Train Sim in about a week was late last night. I hopped on just to see if Sony had stuck to the 8:30 BST launch time or not, and lo and behold, nope, it was on the store at midnight. Happy days. It's not very often that us PlayStation peasants get something before the Steam guys do, that's for sure. That was because I went on Steam to see if I could find the manual as well, and there was nothing uploaded at that point. Right, we'll pilot on a bit and try and get up to a slightly higher speed. Again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just blethering away to you guys and not paying anything like enough attention to the instruments, and I'm far too used to driving along here with cruise control on. It might help be out the window, frankly. Right, so this is us heading up the hill now towards the top of the what's known as the Space Arc ramp, going down the other way. That big, long hill. So I'm going to really wind this one up. I don't think I'm quite going to get it up to the full 30 notches of power. Give it a go. 27. There's no one to go any higher. 28. So this is what I was talking about earlier on, where the amount of power you can pile in to get the needle to the limit of its safe travel. Doesn't matter what speed you're doing or what numbers down here, the rule about that needle never changes. Basically keep it in the zone between the two reds and you're fine, and never ever ever go over the right hand side most red bit. Right, better get out of that because we're dropping some speed here. This is a booby trap. Remember, the speed limit change immediately behind, which needs to be acknowledged. And reduce to, although it's 90, we need to get below 70 to satisfy PZB. We're probably going to get to closer to 40 or 50, so there you go. It's letting me pile the power back in now. Still decelerating slightly, but it shouldn't drop much below 40. Which is absolutely fine, because if you were responding to a signal anyway, 40 would be what you'd be wanting to do. So it generally works out. In fact, there's a expect stop ahead of me. So the HS part, the top part, is clear, but it's clear with expect stop at the next signal, and a PZB magnet guards that as well, I believe. But either way, there is something on there for acknowledging. But we're already way inside all the relevant speed limits. So if the next signal is still at danger, the 500 Hz magnet, we need to be at or below 40. Satisfied that already. And then the next requirement is 25 by about halfway to the red. About halfway between the 500, start of the 500 Hz and the red signal itself is where you need to be down to 25 by. So, hello Chris Hart, hi, welcome, thanks for joining. Just having a wee play about with the new locomotive. There she is, the electric container. I'm afraid I need to hop back into the cab for a second because I need to be on watch for things coming on down here. Okay, so no sign of any magnets, and yeah, there are greens at the end there. Bit difficult to tell actually coming round here, and to be honest, your clue is if you don't get a 500 Hz light coming on at the magnet, if you know what to look for, because you can't actually see the signals very clearly, and I was not entirely certain until I passed the magnet what was going to happen there. So PZB's already stopped as well, so we can just get ourselves up to oh, what the hell is the TSR? Is it 80? 70? 70. Ah, shit, where's the light switch? Is there somewhere? Oh, where is it? There we go. Right, now we've recovered from the trauma, we can get motoring again, or electricing, whatever. Right, shouldn't need that again. So it's not a particularly long train, so we'll once we're sort of rounding that bend, the tail will be well clear of the tunnel. Hardly any power on, and it's picking up speed at a fair old rate already, so let's just give it some beans. Right, so I'm just I've been down this hill once in it and I've not had a signal yet, so I have no idea how it would respond on this downhill. That's why I turned the braking thing up a little bit. But I'm going to pop the brakes in now, and I don't want to go. It's right. Okay, slow down, hen. Yeah, I don't want to go like at 120 and then be dealing with signals and shiz, and it does sometimes happen coming down here. It is a fun machine. I'm really liking it, mate. The variable traction is you'll have seen these yellow numbers here in the middle of the dash on quite a lot of other trains, German ones, and that's the telling you how many I don't know what the unit of measurement actually is, but that's how many like notches of traction that are being fed to the traction motors at that time. Normally you push a lever and the computer does the rest. This big wheel in the middle of the desk directly controls the input, so it's the closest thing I would compare it to is those old diesels on like North Transpennine, the 45 I think it is, where if you open the throttle too violently you can overload it and it all shuts down. Similar thing will happen with this if you overload the Lecky, and the trick is basically to use the gauges on the desk here to judge whether you're giving it not enough or too much. It's different. It's very different to anything you'll have driven before, and for some reason I'm doing like 90k now. It also requires considerably more concentration than your average AFB equipped modern effort. Right, so that's us down the hill already. Fucking hell, have I been talking for that long? Shit. On the bright side, we can feed the power back in now. So I'm aiming for a sweet spot between two red lines on the right hand side of this gauge. Okay, and I'm having to really concentrate now because I've got a signal coming up, a speedometer to watch, this thing to watch, this thing to watch. It's busy. This is the busiest train simulator I think I've ever played with. In fact, this is the busiest simulator I've played with since I used to play with simulators of commercial airliners in an online air traffic control environment, which got quite busy sometimes. This isn't quite that level of busy. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, online flight sim and things like VATSIM and that, this is the train sim equivalent of your PMDG or your level D simulation stuff, or as close as we've got so far, just in terms of the complexity and the concentration that you need. This isn't the one to jump in and drive without reading the manual first. I'm just going to shave a wee bit of that speed away, and I've also just traction locked myself, but again, not the end of the world. you hear that kind of whining noise kicking in at 120, and I think actually, I'm not sure, but I think that is deliberate because we're approaching the top speed this thing should ever be doing in any operating environment. Maybe it's not because it just did it again and I'm nowhere near the speed. There you go. That's what happens when you just make shit up as you go along. Right, so I've got no power because I didn't close the traction wheel properly after braking. This is another one of these ones as well, you want the traction off before you brake, ideally. Absolutely. I like the 66 as well, I wish there'd been more to do with it. I mean, once you get used to the traction wheel, it is in principle no different to any other throttle lever. It just doesn't do any of the work for you. Yeah, that shouldn't need acknowledged. I don't know why I did. 100k never needs acknowledged. Lest the signal lights flash and then it might. Oh, cock. Too late on the brakes. I didn't notice the signal until I was almost past it. I was too focused on this bad boy here, looked up, saw it go by and went, ah, shit. You really need to be on the brakes as soon as you see the signal. Especially on these downhill sections, it's not as steep as the main one, but and it was all going so well. See, the next time I have a good run and go, ah, fuck it, one more. Right. The good thing about this being an ancient shed as well is there's none of this faffing about to recover from a PZB stop. Literally all I now need to do is just check that the tap changer is at 0, let my brakes out, gauges are over here, that'll go up, they'll go down, you'll hear the thing starting up behind you. Just let the brake gauges drop all the way. If it doesn't want to go straight away, just encourage it manually. There you go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. None of this fiddling about with direct braking and having to recycle the whole damn cab to get the thing to move again. Just let the brakes off, away you go. So that was that basically happened because I wasn't paying enough attention. I knew that I was within a couple of kilometres of a station. I know that line well enough to know that I'm going down a hill at that point. I know that this train is absolutely friggin' ancient and doesn't have tremendous brakes. And yet I allowed myself to get caught looking down at my instrument panel and taken completely by surprise there. I'm going to bookmark that link this time. I will have a look at those because I'm well aware there's loads that. Do you know what? There's probably loads. I should, by all fairness, probably go back through some of the old videos and maybe even take one of them down, two of them down, because I'm sure I've actually come out with some complete pish when I still didn't really understand how the system worked. Not that I'm claiming to be an expert on it now by any stretch. Mostly what I know is when to press the button and brake, and even then, as we just saw, can't even get that right. So yeah, thanks for that. We'll definitely have a look at that. So the reason I'm staying at 40 just now is for the signal. It's an HS proceed at reduced speed. It doesn't have a speed showing though, so presume 40. Usual reason for that signal is actually for things like points and what have you. And a lot of, I think 40 kph is basically the bog standard speed limit for going across slow points. On the Deutschbahn. Got that for Wikipedia, so it must be true. Actually, if you put German railway signalling into Wikipedia, it has a page specifically about the German railway signal system, and it talks a lot about KS and HV signalling and a lot of the subsidiary crap you see at the side of the track. And according to one German train driver who had the fortune to bump into on a social media group I belonged to, he confirmed that by and large everything on that wiki page certainly accurate enough to use for the purposes of this. And that's where I get a lot of my information about speed limits and things. Oh, I still had my brakes in, bastard. No wonder I wasn't picking up any speed. And it's going to kick me into restricted mode now, because I think we went under the 10. There we go. So, 10 I think it's 10 seconds at 15k. Or less will trigger that, so just beware if you've slowed down under PZB and you're trying to make it up and pick a little bit of speed up again. Always be aware that you may have gone into restricted monitoring if you went slowly enough. And then what happens is you go, right, I can do 45 under PZB, and then you suddenly hear that horrible noise, and then you realise what you just did again, if you're me. Right, we'll just pop the brakes in there, I think. Lovely. Right, having hummed and hawed a wee bit all the way through that, and I still will go back to the issues I'm having with the sound on this. But by far and away, the most impressive locomotive I've driven yet. And I know I said that about the 182 like a week and a half ago, but this is something else. This is so hands-on compared to anything else, I think. And a lot of that is just down to it looks so different underneath your, well, not under your hands, but you know what I mean. That desk just looks like it belongs on a ship or something, man. Not on a train with that wheel in the middle of it. So yeah, that is a pretty decent train, and certainly for the more how can I put this kindly, the more sort of if you're a sad twat like me that goes and reads fucking German Wikipedia pages about railway rules, you're going to love this basically. Um, so yeah, highly recommended from me. I do have to end the stream just now though, because I shouldn't really have done that second one and run on to this time. But I will be playing with that 155 a lot more over the weekend, and there's a few more things I want to have a look at and compare it against other trains too. So may well be more to come. Um, Although I can say for absolute certainty that I will not be streaming at any time this weekend that there's Formula One cars on track. So, let's see, slow down, explain stuff. That is helpful. I've actually, do you know what? I've kind of thought about doing a couple of edited things, because I discovered that there is an editing suite in the PlayStation, which my son tells me is actually not that shit for what I would be doing with it. I have considered doing a couple of edited things, but then I realised that would mean like quite a lot of work, and I think, nah, I'm just going to switch it on and talk shit like I always do. So, yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it for tonight. It's been a blast, guys. Thanks very much for joining in, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.